My name is Paul Shore, and you're watching another edition of The Street Speaks, a spontaneous speaker's corner for Montrealers where we give you and your neighbors a completely unfiltered platform to express yourselves about anything. Nothing is off limits. This week, Montrealers are speaking out about their addiction to technology. Some are sharing with me why they vote, others why they don't vote, and some are telling me what keeps them from leaving this fine city. Also ahead, our house band Skinny Bros returns with special guests, and improviser Inga Knopf and storyteller Nisha Coleman both take to the Street Speak soapbox. Do you remember your life without a cell phone?
Oh yeah, I mean, I do, but it kind of does seem a bit impossible because sometimes, even when I forget it at home, like you do realize how naked you feel without it.
Because now my smartphone, I think, is an extension of my hand. And before I do a lot of things without the phone. Now when I don't have my phone, I'm like naked. And what's happened? Where is it?
Can you imagine your life without the technology?
It would be hard. It would be really hard because, I mean, I'm so accustomed to using my cell phone and my watch to get things done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes too, because Murphy's Law, whenever I forget my cell phone is when I need it the most. Is when everybody decides to call me, is when I really need to call somebody, is when I don't have $1 to use a payphone, which is $1 now. Can you believe that?
All the time, I'm more, je sais pas comment on dit en anglais, mais...
En français?
Voyeur.
Okay. You're voyeuristic?
Voyeuristic.
You look to
all
check
the
on...
time, but c'est pas important, mais...
But how would your life be different if you didn't have those tools?
Probably, yes. All our lives would have been different. I mean, that's the life we live in today. So
there's no etiquette. There's very little etiquette, and it keeps changing. Like everything keeps changing. So sometimes you don't even, I get pissed off at people for being inappropriate sometimes with technology.
Okay, I'll admit I shouldn't admit this. Yeah, sometimes if I'm with friends, I'll check something, and unfortunately, it becomes impersonal. The problem comes if you're in a meeting, you have such a habit of doing it that you'll do it if you're with a professional. I mean, I've never done it in a job interview, but what's to say that people won't? You're so used to it. It's a very hard habit to break.
But then, younger people just might be like, whatever, man.
It's a difference, with the younger generation,
well, they
the
just
millennials.
grew up with it, so maybe nobody's telling them that that's like rude or something.
Yeah, human etiquette.
Yeah.
Because our life has followed, we're more, it's always being faster, and cell phone helps you to that, but everyone goes fast, but I've decided to slow down,
And it's impersonal. Sometimes I'm with friends, or if you're with a girlfriend, and okay, honey, let me just check this email. And when you're supposed to be eating, you're at a family dinner. Oh, let me just check my Facebook, my Instagram, whatever. It's become extremely impersonal.
If you ever have the opportunity to go on vacation, do you take it with you?
absolutely.
What would happen if you didn't have it with you?
Well, I don't know. I wouldn't have a social life, or I wouldn't just be connected to the world.
I cannot live without it.
Really?
I mean, all my friends have cell phones, and some of them are on it all the time and can't leave home without it. And others perhaps are like a bit more like I am. So.
What would happen if we took your phone away for a week? What would happen to you?
We would feel pretty empty.
You think so?
Yeah.
Empty.
Yeah. Lost, empty. Yeah.
Well, maybe lost, empty.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what would I do? I mean, I would not be able, first of all, to either call my friends or just see what's happening on the web, or just I would really feel empty.
I'm so happy to welcome back to the show our house band and special guests in Elaine, Skinny Bros.
If I could know the time my train arrives at the station, would you be there to welcome me home? This is the loneliest vacation I have known.
I understand politics, really, what goes around in the world, for example.
Do you vote?
Of course.
Why, of course. We only have 60%, 40% voter turnout.
It's not because of me.
I know. Yeah. So do you vote?
Yes, I do. Oh my God, yes, I do.
Are you like a political person at all? Or?
No, I try not to get involved. No, I don't really get involved in it. I mean, I have my, like, I see the media and stuff, but I don't get too involved in it.
So are you a political person?
Not really, no.
Okay. Is that important to you?
Yes, very important.
Talk to me. Why should we all vote?
Well, because that's my peace of mind. You know, like I vote because that's the only way you can express yourself. If you want change, you vote.
Yeah. Okay.
Doesn't really interest me either.
Okay, but it impacts you.
I guess, but you know, I mean, obviously I care about what's going on, but if it doesn't really affect me, I don't really care.
I bought Quebec federal too.
Are you interested in politics?
No, I don't follow it that much.
No?
No, I don't.
But you agree that it affects your life?
Of course, yes.
Okay.
I vote, right?
Yeah. Oh, you do vote?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, when we have an election, I vote. I like that.
Why?
Because it's my voice is necessary too.
How come you don't follow it?
It's not that fun.
Okay.
You know, most of the time they just say things to be elected, and then that's it. And then they don't honor their words.
I'm not a very politics, like directly political in person.
Yeah.
You need to be strong, you know. I think it's hard to work in that field.
Yeah, I really, I follow politics. I mean, I followed lately when Justin Trudeau was named Prime Minister of Canada.
Would you consider yourself a political person?
No, I like to learn about politics. I like to.
Do you vote?
Yeah, of course.
I mean, as citizens, I think it's our duty. I mean, if you don't vote, then you have no reason to criticize anybody because you didn't do your job to begin with.
Do you trust the politicians?
No, always liar. He say, what would you like to hear before and after? He do nothing to change.
But I'm not a militant for any party, or I have my own utopia in my mind.
Yeah, well, concerning if I think about my kids, I become political.
Ah, interesting.
I have been.
It's interesting how that happens with a lot of new parents.
Mm-hmm. Also, even more true when you have special needs kids, then the whole picture changes.
I want them to be engaged in all aspects of life. So if they want some things changed, they should step up to the plate and, and implicate themselves and not just complain, right? So, yeah, I wanted to do that too for myself.
You have to, it's a battle to get the services, it's a battle to just get the basics. So you become I often say I've become a warrior for my kids, really.
Yeah. Here, there is a semblance of democracy, but I mean, we really have to push, right? Because politicians are politicians, so.
We have to travel, we have to open our eyes how the rest of the world is living, how they manage day-to-day life, what are their struggles, and then we will appreciate our own country much, much more.
I'm very happy to welcome back to the Street Speak Soapbox, Montreal's own, the accomplished writer and storyteller, Miss Nisha Coleman.
Ever since I knew that French was a thing, I was determined to learn it. Starting in kindergarten, I would stockpile vocabulary like fromage and boisson gazeuse and discothèque. My cahier was covered in stickers from getting so many right answers. It was like learning a secret code. I was in love with French and my French teachers. After high school, I moved to Montreal for university, and I took more French classes, and I was thrilled at this idea of finally conversing with real francophones. But every time I'd go into a store or have to place an order, I'd get really nervous, and my heart would pound, and I'd get sweaty, and my mouth would go dry, and I'd have to revert to the piece of paper I had in my pocket. And I'd say something like, je voudrais un café, s'il vous plaît. And I'd be met with this look of disgust. Because my Anglo accent was enough to make any Quebecer throw up in their mouths. And then they'd either say something quickly to me in French, and I wouldn't catch it, and I'd stand there blinking like an idiot, or they'd switch to English. Eventually, I just gave up. After university, I moved to Paris. Now, Parisians, instead of getting upset at my poor French, they happily adopted this French teacher status. They all corrected me, even the children. Attention, c'est la chaise, pas le chaise. I lived there for 3 years, and when I finally moved back to Montreal in 2008, j'étais enfin bilingue. C'était génial. One morning, I'm at my friend's house for breakfast, and I ask for une tartine avec du beurre de cacahuète. And she rolls her eyes at me and glares. And I say, quoi? She says, stop it with your pretentious French. That's not how we speak here. C'est une toast avec du beurre de peanut. And I said, Christ tabernacle, colisse, putain, connerie de merde. Je vais jamais arriver à parler cette langue comme il faut.
My parents are both French, and I decided to go to Concordia because I wanted to be fully bilingual to work in art industry. That's mainly the reason why I went there, and because programs in art are really good at this university.
So I was very lucky. I was enrolled in a so-called COFI, Centre d'Orientation et Formation des Immigrants. That's how they called it in French.
My parents were a little not so happy about it, but I mean they are really happy now that I'm fully bilingual, and they see like as this is something important for my career. So, and when we're traveling, I'm always the one who's speaking English, and my dad is like, "I'm so impressed. You're so fluent." I'm like, "Yeah."
That is super important that you learn. If you don't know French and English here, you don't speak properly, and you won't have a future. Yeah. So that's very, very important, and people really emphasize if they're able to.
Was it hard studying in English?
Yeah, no, because we have to admit that most of the teachers are francophone. So, and like usually like 75% of the class are francophone as well.
I think like the French is like, I don't know that I romanticized it, but I was excited for the challenge of it. Like I was excited to learn and like meet people that were francophone or bilingual.
Well, how did you learn English?
By always watching the Christmas films, you know.
So most of my engagement with French has been through my friends that speak several languages, and I'll just ask them like, or like at parties is really fun because everyone is they're like in a good mood and you're drinking, and I will just like I'm not scared, you know, and I'll just like go for it. And
MICTEYMOUS, I want to be a member of a Mickey Mouse Club, you know. He was my teacher. like Radio Canada was my teacher.
I learned a lot of words from food packaging. I took a box of cereal, and at one end it says it in English, ingredients, and the other. So I'm saying, oh, flour, farine, sugar, and so it went. You do that often, you know them.
I started to listen to rap, I was 8, and then video games also. Like I played WoW online, so I had a lot of Anglophone friends there.
Yeah, for the first semesters it was really, really hard because you know you're not thinking in English. So I was listening in English, translate in French in my head, and then write in English was like a big process. But the moment you start thinking in English, it's the best. So like you're fully bilingual at that moment. So yeah.
And of course it needs, I needed some adjustments, but it went alright. So
I threw myself into it because I like meeting people. So, you know, my accent is still there, which I don't like. I want to lose the accent when I speak French because when I speak French, people ingratiate themselves and they start speaking English, and I say no, I want to practice. So I wish the accent was gone, but I'm still young, right?
Yeah, 21. There you go.
Yeah.
I'm so happy to welcome back to the Street Speak Soapbox, comic and improviser by way of Germany, Montreal's own Miss Inga Knopf.
My biggest challenge when moving to Montreal was living in a different language. From one day to another, I went from being able to express anything I could imagine, opinions, abstract ideas, feelings, to having to simplify every thought into awkward stutter. I remember fighting with my first Anglophone boyfriend. You're so condescending. It for sure weakens your argument if you have to look up the vocabulary for your attack. However, what frustrated me the most was that I lost my ability to be funny. Once, in a meeting, our supervisor announced that instead of blood samples, we would take urine samples for our next study. I yelled, "Yay! I love urine!" and was met with deathly silence. People assumed I made a mistake and it wouldn't be polite to laugh. In German, I'm extremely witty. At least that's what I tell people here, because they can't really verify that, can they? Here, I felt like this whole part of my personality was cut off. I felt like an entirely different person, a more boring version of myself. And this really got to me, since I used to define myself as a funny person. With time, I developed other strategies to make people laugh. Deadpan and wit just weren't working for me anymore. I needed to be more obvious, louder, and physical. I'm sorry, I feel bad about this. And then there's humor in things that I don't expect to be funny. Sometimes I try to use a literally translated German proverb. The devil always shits on the biggest pile, and no one understands what's going on. Or I mix up an English proverb. Don't watch a gifted child in the mouth. Instead of telling jokes, it turns out that I am a joke. And that's a version of myself that I'm comfortable with.
These days, things are getting better because there's a wind of social change, but there's still people who have it rough, you know, and I think that everybody has to have it good or else it's not working.
Because if you go Montreal North, all people, he no have the job. Dad no have the job. Mommy no have the job. He no have example, you know. It's the life. But I think it's government to put the money for the kids, for education. He coming good. Because now next generation is bad, very, very bad.
I belong to an institution temporarily because I don't have an apartment.
Where are you living?
Dans un centre d'hébergement temporaire.
No, not everybody gets the same job, not everybody gets the same salary because there's social classes.
C'est difficile de m'expliquer en anglais, mais le gouvernement doit faire les efforts. Now he take the kids is young. After the kids have 8 years, he put the kids out. Now the parents have the problem because the kids no listen. The life change. C'est pour ça qu'il y a trop des enfants dehors, les sans-abri, ça commence par là.
They're waiting to find a place, a cheap place like HLM. I'm waiting for that.
Are you getting what you need there?
I'm very patient.
So that comes back to my first point, which is social classes reproduce themselves.
Sometimes.
Most of the time.
He have the friend, he put for the commerce for drug and prostitution. Now the government take, she go there. Now it's a big problem for my kids. She not have the diploma for go to school. She not have the good job.
There is less social mobility now, but there still is social mobility.
Social mobility exists, but it's in the margin. It's not something that most people have access to.
Right.
Yet.
Okay.
C'est ça la plus difficile ici pour avoir les enfants ici au Canada. Surtout pour nous les immigrants. Même les Québécois aussi. Il y a beaucoup de Québécois qui sont dans la rue à cause du gouvernement. Le gouvernement, il can change. Il doit changer la mentalité de faire les choses.
The good way of doing things is to invest in the people rather than in the bankers or the government or the bosses or the companies. If you invest in the people will give it back 10 times, 20 times, 40 times, 50 times.
Even if I travel a lot all around the world, I really love Montreal. Like, I'm a big fan. I'm always happy to come back because I don't know for you, but I have the feeling in Montreal there's always something to do, always something to share with people. I don't know, so.
To me, it's even more diverse than the rest of Canada because you have that French that is mandatory, but there are a lot more Anglophones and a lot more immigrants, and it's just so much more interesting here than other cities I find in Canada.
So what keeps you here?
Because I love it.
What do you love about it?
The people, the culture, the food.
Well, you know, this place is fascinating, absolutely fascinating, and it drives me crazy at the same time. Well, I think you have to be a resident of Montreal to understand, but it's a very, very unique place.
I don't know, it's an element of energy that you can't really describe to people that don't get it. It's either you get it or you don't, right? I mean, things are not perfect, but I mean, we could appreciate what we have at least and, you know, appreciate each other and stop complaining, you know?
I'd say try and stay in Montreal. It's such a beautiful city. I know you're saying in Toronto I'll get paid more, in New York I'll get paid more. Try and find a good job here. We have both languages, which is such an advantage.
There's multiculturality here. There's good restaurants, there's good festivals, we have museums, we have green areas, good, nice parks. We have Ile Sainte-Hélène.
Do you work for Tourism Quebec?
No. No.
We have no other city in the world. You could drive 15 minutes from Anjou, where I live, go in the old port, you have a European flair.
We speak more than just English and French. We speak all kinds of languages here. It's a melting pot.
And I feel like people, something about how long the winter is, like plants this thing in people that they really appreciate, like the seasons in general. There's just an overall more engagement with like opportunities to be outside, and but Montreal is just like, it's very relaxed.
People who find themselves able to settle into Quebec or Montreal in a positive way love it. They love it because they get good responses from the people here.
It's easy to speak to people in the streets or just like to be friendly with people compared to other countries. Like I've been to Germany and it was so hard for me to connect with people there.
Underneath all our craziness and some of our prejudice and so on is a love of the world. We have that. Sometimes it needs to be honored and nurtured more than it is, but I have become convinced that we are a model for the world.
That wraps up another edition of The Street Speaks. A special thank you to our house band Skinny Bros and to Soapbox veterans Nisha Coleman and Inga Knopf. Please join me next week as Montrealers speak up about what role art plays in their lives and in our city. Some demystify the stigmas associated with living with a mental illness or depression, and others share with me what it's like to live with a disability, visible or non-visible. Also next week, comic and general troublemaker Keith Waterfield and comic improviser Sehar Manji both take to the Street Speaks soapbox. If you want to get in touch with me, please don't be shy. I can be reached on Facebook, Twitter, and all that jazz. See you next time.
Mon nom est Delphine and you are watching The Street Speaks.